friends, family, brothers, and sisters. This is Aaron Saft coming to you from the M&R Running Pains podcast. We've got a switch up in the schedule today. I am going to postpone Miriam Salome's physical therapy podcast for another week. I had a guest, Terry Chiplin is his name, and we have a time-relevant piece that Terry is putting out to the public, so I wanted to make you guys aware of that and give you a chance to sign up for it. So today's guest, Terry Chiplin, he does so much for the running community. I met Terry at Vacation Races Smoky Mountain Half Marathon, and Terry does a lot with that organization, but he also has his own business and does a lot with mindset, meditation, being mindful, and that's what we get into today. He also puts on the U.S. Trail Running Conference for race directors and runners. I've been going to that for the last 5 or 6 years. So I wanted to reach out to Terry and talk to him about meditation and being mindful, especially in these times. I've started meditating again myself. I've been doing that for the past 3 weeks as part of my morning ritual. I'll kind of talk about that. So this episode will be with Terry, and really appreciate his open and honest approach to life. His openness with us, being vulnerable. He gets a bit emotional in the podcast, and is just really open and honest. I loved it. So I hope you enjoy this podcast. Before I get into that, I just want to go through a few announcements. Terry, first off, mentions Brene Brown in the podcast for the quote, and we just he emailed me after and told me that it was actually Sonia Renee Taylor that actually gave the quote. So I wanted to give credit where credit was due. So forgive us for that error. Foot Rx right now, my running store, we're taking orders. So if you're looking for something that we have in stock, you can email footrxstaff@gmail.com, and we'll be checking those. Right now, we've been going in about every Wednesday. I went in last Saturday. I was in there for about 12 hours, fulfilling some orders for some of my athletes and friends and family, and just some people out in the public. So I sincerely appreciate that, especially in these times. But we're going to try to get more, into a regular schedule as things start to open back up, given that we do open back up. But for right now, if you are looking for something, again, that we have in stock, please email footrxstaff@gmail.com, and we'll check with that. Just leave your name and number and what you're looking for in the email, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can about that. So appreciate you trying. Really do. Thank you, guys. The Cradle to Grave race, Cradle to Grave 30K and 10K. They are under new leadership at the Cradle, and so I had been working with Devin for a while, Devin Gentry, with this race, helping him put it on, and with the transition, they've asked me to help direct it again. So I'm going to be a part of it, helping direct it and get them going in the direction, because they know all about their daily operations, but they don't know much about race directing. So going to be helping out again this year. So the new date is going to be September 12th. The registration is on Ultra Sign Up. It was postponed from its normal May 11th date. So the race is postponed until September 12th. You can find out more information on cradletograverace.com or on Ultra Sign Up under Cradle to Grave. So looking forward to that event, as always. Really does a great job of raising money for the Cradle Forestry, which is a great organization that does so much for our forest, not only here in North Carolina, but in Tennessee, Georgia, throughout the Southeast. So thank those guys, and check that out if you would. Hellbender, once again, we have rescheduled Hellbender to the weekend of November 20th and 21st. We've got a new start time of 1:30 a.m., and I'm asking all volunteers that can help out, go on to Ultra Sign Up and sign up. Even if you had signed up previously, we had to delete that because of there's new times. And so if you have, and even if you still can, if you would just go back on Ultra Sign Up and re-sign up for your position under the time slot that you're best fit for. So thank you so much once again. For myself, coaching, I say this feels like every podcast, but I do have slots available right now. If you're looking to enhance your speed or get ready for a fall, event doesn't necessarily have to be a race, but like I said, coaching spots are available. You can reach out to me at runningpains@gmail.com. Or you can message me through Facebook under Aaron Saft or MR Running Pains Facebook pages. Thank you so much. I'm going to be doing a shoe review on my YouTube channel. Just got the new Enda E10. They're a Kenyan-made shoe. I got the racing flat version, the E10. It's really nice, fast shoe. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a review on that. Did my workout in those actually today. I did 15 by 1 minute with 1 minute jog, and man, it's a snappy, fast shoe. I was pretty impressed, and the price point's pretty awesome too. I think it was like $110. So, stoked about their green story. I think it's going to be a good brand to watch. So hopefully they can make it through these tough times. But I'll talk more about that on my next YouTube video. Hope to have that out this weekend. Fuel 100. If you go to Electro, ELECTRO -BITES.com, the electrobites, they're another type of fueling source. They're an alternative to gels and gummies, kind of a crunchy bite, if you will. They're having 50% off, 50% off right now. They're overstocked since a lot of the races have been postponed that they're supposed to send these to. So they're having a kind of a clearance. So get over to their website. I'll put that on the show notes as well. But 50% off. Kogala, just an update. There was kind of a two-sided tale. Kogala was trying to sell masks and kind of lit up the message boards. Everybody was kind of up in arms because it just seemed kind of strange for Kogala to be selling masks. And to their defense, they were just trying to do something good. They could get their hands on masks. They were not the medical grade, but they could get them cheap, and they were just trying to get them from China and sell them basically at their cost to people. But I wrote the company and just kind of told them what I was kind of seeing, and people were just upset that it just seemed like, why would Kogala be selling masks? Which, understandable. Some people were like, well, I can't find masks anywhere. I would have appreciated it if I could have bought them there. So like I said, two sides to the tale. But Kogala ended up donating those masks to medical staff and people in need. So just an update there. I am still one of their brand ambassadors. So if you're interested in Kogala, want to find out more, I have a discount code. I'll put that in the show notes as well. But wanted to kind of put an end to that tale and give you an update as to what happened. Lastly, I listened to a great podcast today. Terry had brought people from the Clean Sport Collective to the trail running conference. And basically the Clean Sport Collective is a group of people that are looking to do just that. They're looking to make our sport clean of all performance enhancements. They have a pledge that everyone can sign, and I thought that was something that I'm definitely on board with. Their website is CleanSport, CleanSport.org, and they have a pledge there that you can make that says you're going to be clean. You're not going to use performance enhancing drugs, which I think is fantastic. I think in this time, we want to have a clean sport, and no matter if it's road running, trail running, ultra running, whatever it is, any sport, we all want to be on equal playing field. So let's get on there. I encourage you to get on there and sign the pledge. I'll put that in the show notes as well. So we'll get into the interview. I want to thank Terry again. And once again, please enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys at the end. This is Aaron Saft coming to you from the MR Running Pains podcast. I'm here with Terry Chiplin, and we're going to talk today about mindfulness and meditation. Terry is a great mentor. I've done his workshop, and I've been to his conference. We're going to talk about all those things. Say hello, Terry.
Good morning. Good morning, Aaron. Good to see you.
You too, sir. You too. I'm so glad to have you here and see your happy face. It just makes my heart shine.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Mine
Absolutely. Too. Terry and I were talking before we started here, and everything we kept saying was like so prevalent that I was like, all right, we just have to hit record because we're touching on so many good things here. So Terry, let's just start with a little introduction of yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? Where are you living now? What do you do? All that good stuff.
Okay, well, I like to think of myself as a work in progress. My name is Terry Chiplin. I don't know if you picked up already, but I have a Brit accent that I'm originally from England, and been now in Estes Park in Colorado, and been here for 14 years now. Actually, just coming up on 14 years, and I'm a runner, and that's how Aaron and I first connected. I do lots of things connected with running, most of which are trail running related. That's my passion. That's my love. I've always been a nature lover, and once I connected the running part with trails, then it was like, oh my God, why haven't I not done this before? And I'm married. Got a dog, Coco. We live at 8,200 feet above sea level, which was quite a difference. It was the first night we were in this house that we're in now. And Aaron, you've been here before, haven't you? You've been to the
yes, sir.
Yeah. The first night I was here, I was kind of struck by. I was just thinking 8,200 feet, huh? And this is our house here, and we're living here. And I thought about back in England, and I thought, the British Isles, the highest mountain in the British Isles is Ben Nevis, and it's like 4,000 plus feet. and I thought, here I am, here we are living at nearly double that elevation, and nobody would live on the top of Ben Nevis. It's like. That's a crazy thing to do. Nobody would do that. And here I am, and we started our life here, and we've been here 14 years, and it's just an amazing place. And we hold training camps here in Estes Park, and I also put on the US Trail Running Conference, which is how we first met. I work with Actually, we met through vacation races, through the
That's right.
Great Smoky Mountains Half Marathon, and you were at the expo there, and so was I. And I work with Vacation Races. I'm their official training partner for the Half Marathon series of national park races. And also we developed an app called Active Acuity, which is effectively a mindfulness and meditation app for runners. And also just about to launch a new program called Runner's Mindset, which we can come back to a bit later on in this podcast.
Awesome. I'm going to put the Active Acuity app. I'll put that in the show notes so people can grab it there. And then we'll also put the link to the Trail Running Conference, which we'll talk more about, and your new program. So that will all be in the show notes, so people can go there for more information. But we'll also chat about that kind of stuff.
Cool. Thank you.
Absolutely. So. Obviously, Terry said he's got a trail running background. Now, when you were in England, were you a trail runner then, or when you came to the States, you found it more?
No, I found it. So I was a road runner, and I'd been doing. I did some cross country back in school, but I was actually my running career started on the track back in England. And
you're in the south or the north of England?
I was in the south. I was suburbs of London, and we had a nice running track local to us. Which the school used for PE and that kind of thing. But I was running hundreds and 220s, and these were yards, not meters. And and it was on gravel. There wasn't tartan track back in those days, and I just loved the feeling of running fast. it was just an amazing thing. I used to dream about running. I used to find myself daydreaming in school, looking out the window and wishing I was outside running. And and I used to write like poems and stories about running and all kinds of stuff. It was really, running was my life. That's what I wanted to do. And
who were some of your heroes?
Well, heroes back then. Oh gosh. Well, I mean, it was because I was a sprinter. Then it was mainly kind of sprinting guys. So, but I remember Mexico Olympics, 1968, and it was kind of a mixture of emotions because it was I didn't know a lot about the kind of physiology and that kind of thing, and the effect of altitude at all, and so that was the first and the only so far Summer Olympics that's been held at altitude, and it was just Bob Beeman's long jump. I don't know if you remember that, but what was it, 29 feet and just incredible. And I remember the black American athletes who won the 200 and the 100, and it was just incredible. And that was kind of really. I think my first Olympics that I really got kind of engaged in it, but I also remember thinking, like the Black Power salute for the 200 meter medal ceremony, and I kind of remember kind of thinking, what's going on here? And of course, it was like the whole racism piece in terms of athletics wasn't so prevalent in England. As it is here, and so it was a lot of kind of learning experiences really, and then of course once we looked at coming to Colorado and being at altitude, then it's like, oh my God, we came up with the idea for Active at Altitude, which is my business name, and that kind of neatly sums up what it is that we do. But I Back when I was 14, then I had no idea that what altitude training was, and the fact that anybody could do it. It can benefit anybody. It works whether you're a 4-minute miler or a 15-minute miler. That everybody's physiology changes and everybody benefits. And in fact, to some extent, the slower you are, probably the more benefit you can get, because your body can make bigger adaptations. So.
Nice.
Yeah. So, that was me back in England. But I mean, I love the track. I mean, I was kind of drawn to cross country, but it just wasn't cool. And my peer group was, very much track based, and so it was like, the longest. I think we maybe used to do a mile or a couple of miles in terms of maybe doing some warm up stuff, but that was all I did. But I did kind of long. There was a part of me that I kept hidden away. That was, I just loved being out in nature, and I loved running barefoot on grass, and these kind of things. And my family every year would go down to the south coast of England and stay with Granny and Grandpa, and we go to a place called the New Forest. And I don't know if you've ever been there, but if anybody listening knows England, then it's beautiful place. I mean, it's just heavily wooded. Lots of trails and paths all over the place, and lots of cars as well. But but we also got New Forest ponies, and it's just a kind of wonderful wild place. And
that's awesome.
And I can remember we all used to squeeze into my grandpa's Mini. And so there was me, my mum, my dad, my sister, me, Granny and Grandpa.
In a Mini. Oh, that's a great idea.
six of us in a little mini, and this was an old mini, so it was like a 1960s mini. So
that's fantastic.
Nothing like they are now. And I remember they used to, because I was in the back, and it was only the front doors that opened. They didn't have back doors, and so I remember kind of everybody getting kind of falling out the car almost, and but it was like the first thing I wanted to do was to just kind of get out the car and run. And so it's like I used to say, yeah,
I'm just being cooped up, right?
Yeah, just being cooped up. Yeah, you're right. And so I just used to say, I'm just going to outstretch my legs, and it was like my mum would kind of like, don't go too far,
Oh my gosh!
And so that was, yeah. I mean, at school it was kind of tricky. I mean, it was, it just wasn't the cool thing for cross country. But I used to go and support kind of the cross country races and that kind of thing. And I did kind of dabble a little bit, but it was really kind of half-hearted. Whereas the sprinting stuff was like. And I won between the ages of 8 and 15. I won every race that I ever entered.
Wow! When did you start running? Did you start running at 8 or younger than that?
Well, it wasn't competitive then. It was just kind of fun stuff, But then once I got to we called it grammar school back in England, but once we got to senior school, then it did become competitive, and I just had these fast legs.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I could just run fast, and but I didn't have a lot of power. So once the other guys, once puberty hit, and the other guys started growing these big muscles, and it's like I looked at them and I was kind of thinking, okay,
I'm out of place.
I'm out of place here, which was tough in a way, because it was like I was really building my life, and my dream was to become an Olympic sprinter, and it quickly became clear that wasn't going to happen. But then, I didn't understand that my physiology wasn't a power. I wasn't a sprinter physiology, didn't have a sprinter's physiology. So, it's like I could grow strength and, develop muscles and that kind of thing. But it's like my body is designed, much like yours, Aaron, for, okay, we've got speed, but we haven't got that out and out power. But then we got endurance, and that's what our bodies are, our body type is designed for. So yeah, it was a big, and to be honest, not, my dream kind of disappearing before my eyes really upset my life, and it kind of, it took me a big chunk of time to recover, and it was also, I think, a part of why, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but at one point for 10 years I was a drug addict, and maybe we hadn't talked about it before.
We hadn't talked about that. So please go ahead, expound. I mean, this is great because it'll give us, background into, where you've gone.
Where I've gone, yeah. So I call it kind of my dark period, where I was really off the rails. I felt like crap. Self-esteem, was down the bottom of the drain, and I was bouncing from relationship to relationship, deeply unhappy. Contemplated suicide sometimes. It was just a typical kind of young boy's young boy's life, unfortunately, and we lose so many boys that way. Shit, you're going to get me crying now, Aaron.
Sorry. Sorry.
Oh dear, you're turning the tables now, aren't you? You got me.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, he always does this to me at the conference. So no, but I never made anybody cry. So, by all means, share what you want to share, but whatever.
Well,
Aaron,
too much. It's like, I'm. School was never a place to, although I had friends at school, it was that there wasn't really anybody close that I could open up to. My mum and dad, were both kind of raised, not to show their emotions. And, it was basically, as children, we were expected to, be around and help out. But, it was the rest of the kind of, it's like, shut up, it's like,
Just suck it up, right?
yeah. It's like and so there was nowhere really to kind of to let go and share, the stress, the and the self-loathing. I mean, that's really what it came down to. And then once I left school, I went to university and I discovered sex and drugs and rock and roll. And and well, I already had the rock and roll, but sex and drugs. But and then the drugs especially were just an escape. And it was a chance for me to feel, at least for a brief period of time, to feel okay about myself. But then, of course, what happens is, you come down again from whatever you've been taking, and it's like you feel worse than before, and so it's just a never-ending cycle. And so it went on, and but then I was 28 years old, and pretty unhappy, still feeling like crap. Nothing had changed.
Sure, right.
And still juggling and bouncing relationships and all that kind of stuff. And I remember waking up one morning and thinking to myself, if you carry on doing what you've been doing, then I was also really unhealthy. I mean, I wasn't running. I had, chronic, my skin was terrible. I was having some pretty chronic breathing issues, related to smoking and all that kind of crap. And so I thought, if you carry on doing what you're doing, then you're not going to have, a long, happy, healthy life. And so I was like, what I did was I said, what did I used to enjoy doing that I'm not doing anymore? And the first thought that came into my head was running.
Nice.
And I was like, okay. And I think it was a Sunday. It might have been a Sunday morning. And it was like, I put some trainers on my feet, went out the door, went out for a run.
Nice.
And it was like, I can't remember how far I went, but I know I came back and I had blisters on my feet.
That's awesome.
And I can't remember if I ran every step of the way or what happened, but the key thing is that I remembered. It was like, oh, God, it's like, shit, have I been missing this? and it was that moment and that kind of realization that that got me back on track again. It was I didn't have anybody work with me in terms of giving up the drugs. It was just like, you need to do this. This is your responsibility. This is your. Thank you. Yeah, it was. I'm looking back on it now. It's I often wonder if I'd not woken up that morning and had that thought process and made that decision. I often wonder what my life would have been like now. I mean, there's no way of knowing. I mean, the great part is that it was a positive decision. I was being mindful. I was being reflective. That's really kind of made a huge change in my life. It's like one of the big things for me is that I lacked so much confidence in myself back then, and it's like now when I started thinking about what I wanted to do with my life, then it was like, okay, one of the things I wanted to do was to encourage other people to discover themselves in the way that I have done, and running is just such a natural thing for any of us to do. And one of the things I loved about Born to Run is that, the book is that it kind of brings home that the running is just for everybody, and so when people would say to me, it's like, I'm not a runner, then it's like, I just come back with, who told you that?
Right.
Where did you hear that from? Yeah,
Exactly.
and did that person have the qualifications necessary to say whether you were a runner or not? It's like so often we people's lives can be based around misinformation that they've picked up somewhere along the line. And for myself, it's like even once I was a few years into my running career, I never thought I'd run a marathon. I was like, half marathon, that's all I'm fit for. and then it was one day that a really good friend of mine who was in the Atlanta Olympics and the World Cross Country Championships, World Athletics Championships back in '93, that I was part of her training kind of group. And so we take it in turns to go out for long runs with her. And we were out for a run one day, and I think we got up to like about 16 miles or something, 17 miles maybe with her. And she turned to me and said, I think you're ready for a marathon. And it was like, okay.
All right, let's do this.
Let's do this. I'm now a marathon runner. And but you know what I mean? It's like
absolutely.
We kind of carry around these limiting messages in our mind.
Preconceived notions.
Preconceived notions, absolutely. Which just, and then we live them. We live by them, even though they're absolute crap.
Because there are our own expectations. Yeah, we set our own limitations.
Exactly. And so it was. I mean, there's just, I mean, now I'm at the position where it's like, I can do whatever the fuck I want to do. It's like whatever I set my mind to. It's like, you mentioned the trail running conference, and it's like that came out of, I had no idea that I could put on a trail running conference. I mean, I've never put on a conference before. I mean, I'd already been putting on trail running camps and women's running camps and that kind of thing. So I have some experience about putting together an event that's been successful. But the way I was thinking was somebody else was going to run this conference and I was going to help them. And then our medical center here in Estes, we had a meeting there talking about the prospect of putting on a trail running conference and the medical center supporting it. And I was coming up with all these ideas. And at the end of the meeting, a couple of the people from the hospital, from the center, came up and said, "We want you to put on the conference." And I was like, "What? What do you think? Do you know anything about me?" And it's like. So they were like, well, you've got all these ideas, let's run with it and see what happens. And this year we're going to be in our 8th year, I think it is, and I love it. I mean, it's just it's grown to become something that I'm really proud of. But it's also a great. A great networking opportunity for both for race directors and trail runners and sponsors and exhibitors and all kinds of people to get together and share ideas and with all that's happening right now, then I'm looking forward even more to this year. I think it's going to be a really good year, but also what we were talking about a little bit earlier about not returning to normal, is like I think that's a really good direction to take. Is like we don't necessarily need to go back to the way it was before, because there were so many things wrong about the way it was before.
Well, go ahead and read that quote. That was beautiful.
Yeah. So a friend of mine from Race Roster, who are the registration platform that I use for my events, sent this to me this morning. So thank you, Brandon. It's from a woman called Brene Brown. And I've got a couple of books by her. She's a really great author. One of them is called Daring Greatly, which is a really good direction. Yeah. She's a very inspirational person. So Brene Brown, so it's Brene with an accent and Brown. And her quote is this, and I'm not sure where this comes from, but I love it. We will not go back to normal. Normal never was. Our pre-corona existence was not normal. other than we normalized greed, inequity, exhaustion, depletion, extraction, disconnection, confusion, rage, hoarding, hate, and lack. We should not long to return, my friends. We are being given the opportunity to stitch a new garment, one that fits all of humanity and nature.
That is beautiful.
Isn't it beautiful?
It is. Yeah. That's precisely what we need right now.
It is exactly what we need. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And let me take a step back for a moment and just honestly and sincerely say thank you for opening up and sharing so much with us. It's truly touching to see the emotion and to feel that, being friends, it means a lot. Thank you for taking that time and that opportunity to share your story. I don't want to thank you off the air. I want to take the time now so that people recognize what you shared and that. So thank you. And on to Brene Brown. We were talking about this situation, and you and I started talking about how being mindful right now is more important than ever. Being in the moment and there for those, setting our intentions. Our kind of theme here is talking about mindfulness and meditation, and you've come a long way, obviously, from your youth to where you are now. You've made quite the journey, and it sounds like it started that day where you just went for a run, which is so befitting, and that's wonderful. So from that day, you started this intention of improving yourself. How did you get into mindfulness and meditation?
Wow. Ooh. Oh, that's a really good question. Okay. So, well, I guess meditation, once I started, because I guess what was happening for me is that, and I don't know if any of your listeners will empathize with this, is that kind of just being alive as a young man felt so bad that it was there wasn't any kind of time I had to. I didn't want to spend time reflecting, because then all that would happen is I would just be unhappy with myself. And so even though I might have had opportunities to reflect in that way, it wasn't really until that day and literally I that process that I described that was exactly like that. So I came back and I was able to be reflective, but in a way that was positive about me. And that was a real turning point for many, many reasons. And so it wasn't really until after that I became I would actually yearn for space to be reflective and to I wasn't kind of practicing meditation back in those days at that point, but I think in many ways, kind of from what I understand now, then that run. Then that run was probably, you could almost describe it maybe as a meditative run in nature. And, it was, I remember just kind of, I was going down some roads that I've driven down many times. And I can remember kind of noticing things that I hadn't noticed before. It's like the color of that gate. Oh, look, there's somebody in that house. It's like, I just hadn't noticed that before. And so it was almost like I'd been kind of wearing, blinkers or dark glasses or something. And it's like all of a sudden they were lifted off and, they were taken away from me or what? No, the important thing was I took them off. So
right.
It wasn't they were taken away. I was taking responsibility for myself. I remember as well as a young man that I used to jeez.
Take a moment.
I don't think I've ever I'm not sure I've ever shared this with anybody, but I remember leaving messages saying, "Please save me," or it's words to that effect, that kind of thing, and it was like that was the closest I could get to asking for help in our family, and yeah, it was. It's my parents were loving. They had good hearts. And I miss both of them dreadfully. But the reality was that they were just raised in a way that that didn't allow them to be expressive. So it's like. My sister and I were talking, and it's like, she was saying that when Mum died, she could only remember her hugging her, I think, 3 times in her life. And it's like, oh man, that's that sucks. That sucks. Anyway, so you mentioned earlier on about Headspace, and my first I think I've tried to meditate before, but the biggest challenge, I think, for many people, well, certainly for myself, meditating was that it's just there's so much going on. And it's just seemed like the goal of meditation was to get to this place where you have complete peace and quiet, and you're in charge of your brain, and you can turn it on, you can turn it off, and so on. So I had tried meditation and and not been very successful in the sense that there's always seemed to be a new thought coming in, and different things happening, and so it was just like, meditation, that's not for me. It's pretty difficult.
yeah, no, absolutely. I've got monkey brain on like 24/7.
Exactly.
The little monkey that you wind up with the symbols. Yeah, that's my brain.
And which is amazing, some of the time, but then it's like when you do want to turn it off, then it's like, how the hell do you do it?
That's right. Yeah. Good question. Yeah, that's what I'm working on.
And so I was with a group down in Boulder. And there's a group called Revolution Running that I used to train for. They're one of the top running groups in Boulder, Denver area, and a good friend of mine heads them up. And so I was working with them, and I had a runner that I was running with that one morning, and she said to me, Terry, I need to talk to you about this meditation app called Headspace. And I was like, okay, tell me more. And so she told me a bit about it, and I was like, this sounds really great. So it's a British guy, Andy Puddicombe, and he went to do a sports science degree just like I did. We actually went to the same university back in England. Yeah. I know there's a lot of synergies here, but we went to the same university back in England, and not at the same time. I don't think he was there then, but then he stopped partway through his degree course, and he went off to be trained as a Buddhist monk. And she just said, you should check it out. I think you'll love him. And so I came back that day and downloaded the Headspace app and started the introductory series and had a 10-minute meditation. And excuse me, it was just, there was something about him, and but also that it was a guided meditation. So he's guiding the meditation, and that made a huge difference for me, because instead of me trying to keep track of what my brain's doing and what the monkey's telling me, then I was actually listening to what he was suggesting. And so it was kind of like the difference between, I was thinking about this, it's kind of like the difference between when you're learning to drive. It's kind of like the difference between having somebody in the car with you that is teaching you and trying to drive on your own. and you learn so much more because somebody else is directing you, somebody else is guiding you. Yeah. And I really felt the same with meditation, that somebody else has gone through this and understands what it's like and is taking the time to lead me, to teach me, to guide me. And I just loved it, and so I was like, okay. And then I became a subscriber, and so Jackie and I every morning would start our day with a headspace meditation, and then I can't remember exactly how long it was, but several months I think into this, doing this on a daily basis, that I just reached this place where I was in this meditation. Andy was not talking. It was a time of quiet, and my mind was quiet. I was like, oh.
I found it.
It's like, and it was amazing. I mean, I can't remember if I ever told you this, but at some point in that peace and quiet and space, in that meditation, then I got a message. I heard a voice, and it was not a voice I recognized. Initially I was kind of thinking, is that my dad? And I was like, no, it's okay. Let's just listen.
Right.
And the voice, the message was, you are going to do an app, and you know exactly what to do. And that was all it said. And then it went back to quiet, and then the meditation finished, and we came out, and I shared with Jackie, and it was amazing because I had no conscious idea that I was going to do an app,
right.
but it was like, as soon as I got that message, it was almost like whatever subconscious ideas I'd had, it was like the tap would opened. And that's how Active Acuity came to be born. And so many times since then, I've had messages or ideas that have come to me when I've actually taken the time to stop and give myself the space and the time to do it. And I think that's when magic happens, and talk about a complete change. When I was a young man, then it was like I would do pretty much anything to avoid kind of peace and quiet and reflection. Now it's like I love reflection.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love reflection because it's then we get an opportunity to think about how we can improve ourselves. So it's kind of like we're both coaches, Aaron, and so it's like when you're working with an athlete, then it's not just about getting them to you can set a program and say, this is what you need to follow, and it will have this impact on your cardiovascular system, on your musculoskeletal system, and blood supply and everything else, the nervous system. But at the end of the day, it's like it also helps to linking back to mindfulness. Then it also helps to have that kind of reflective piece. So what I love to do with my athletes is to give them time to reflect on how they're doing, and then things like following somebody's training plan and seeing what they're doing in terms of distance, time, pace, elevation gain, and that kind of thing is really interesting. But to some extent, the piece that I'm the most interested in is how they're feeling. What's happening emotionally. Are they happy doing what they're doing? And
Exactly.
it's so important for us to, and it kind of links back with what Brene Brown is saying. It's like we can have all the money in the bank, or we can have lots of material things, but are we truly happy?
Yeah.
And I think
Absolutely.
it's maybe this is a time for us to be reflective and think about what makes us happy. What is it, and having having a healthcare system that turns people away from hospitals because they haven't got insurance, and then they die. That is not making me happy. That right. and there's lots of things that I think hopefully we get some kind of people's revolution or something, that we need to change a lot of things, and it's not just about this country. I mean, it's about the world.
Yep.
So my home country, England, is doing. They're not doing a lot of things right either, and so there's lots of opportunity for change, as Brene says. Yeah,
it's the first time that people in India have seen the Himalayas from their own towns because pollution's so far down, and we see clearer waters, and less smog. LA is seeing sunrises it's never seen before. There's so many things right now that we can look at and say the world is actually it's a good place right now. We're in a good place, even though we're not doing our normal. None of us are,
right.
But how do we, adjust for that when we do get back to whatever it is, after this? That's what we have to figure out, is how do we sustain our planet and each other in a good way that we don't hurt our Earth or each other any further than we already have.
Right.
But it's like I said, that was a beautiful quote, and I really appreciate you bringing that to us.
Well, the timing, I'm a big believer in there's no such thing as coincidence. That Brandon sent that to me. He had no idea I was doing a podcast with you and what we were going to be talking about, but it's like, what a great way to set things up. That's
yeah, absolutely. No, it's we're talking about joy and finding joy. My personal journey, when I was young and running, running was it was something that I strived for the competition, to find success. That was what I wanted. That next step, compete at the top level of high school, compete at the top level of college, and then, compete professionally. And then, it's not sustainable, I had a, really, that's when I had to reflect and say, okay, I need to find, happiness and joy in this, because I want it to continue in my life, but this is not sustainable. I'm burning myself out mentally, physically. I need to find the happiness in it. Your newest newsletter, it talks about a runner that was completely stressed out by running. If you want to touch on that for a second, I really enjoyed that story.
Oh, you did? Oh, thank you. So yeah, it's funny how this happens. I don't know about you, but it's Aaron. But it's like whenever this newsletter, it's a monthly newsletter. It's an organization I call the Positive Running Movement, and so the idea is that it's an opportunity for runners to kind of share their positive stories, really. And so once a month, I do an interview with a runner. And ask them to share their story in terms of what they enjoy about running, and what they've learned, and kind of where running has taken them, so yeah, the story and the title is that running isn't always a stress reliever.
Right.
And of course it definitely can be, but but certainly this story. So it's a running friend of ours here locally in Colorado, and she I've done many runs with her. She's an amazing trail and mountain runner. She enters races and wins her age group and this kind of thing. She's a great friend. And I knew she was running, and it was actually Boston that she was going to be running. So she comes and get a massage from Jackie, from my wife, a few days before when she does a race. And so she knocked at the door. I went to the door, and I could tell as soon as she started communicating, which brings us back to the circle again. But as soon as she started communicating, I could tell something wasn't right. And I just asked her, how she was feeling, and she said, I'm not feeling great. I feel pretty crap. And she said, she just felt this kind of pressure on her chest, and she said, I think I need to get to the doctors and get some medication. Um, and, I mean, that was her first. And then
Right.
she was kind of thinking, well, it's only a few days before race day. And is this going to make sense? And so I was like, come in and sit down. And so Jackie was getting the table and stuff ready. And so I said to her, we just kind of started talking, and it just kind of suddenly struck me. I was like, when was the last time that you enjoyed a run? And she just burst into tears. And I was like, yes. I was like, yes. And because that's always an indication for me that I'm helping in some way, because we tend to, going back to my childhood, then I was like a cauldron, like a pressure cooker, but without a valve. And so I know from my experience with working with people that it's like, when people cry, then that's very often a good sign for me in terms of they found a way to release something. It's tears are nature's way of our releasing pent up emotions. Yeah. And so we'll often see this at the end of a race, for example. It's like somebody will be absolutely focused for 26.15 miles and or whatever the distance is,
Yeah.
and it's like the last 20 yards or something is like all of a sudden, woof,
Yeah.
the waterworks open, and it's like your floods of tears, and it's like, where did that come from? And it's like, well, it's just like that realization that you've, whatever the goal was, that you've reached it. You've set it, you set yourself up. So yeah, with this runner, then once she started, she was able to share her tears. Then it was like, okay, this is great. And so we talked through what's been happening for her in terms of her running, and it was just like she'd been so focused on the performance side of things, and she had in her mind setting a PR at Boston, tons of pressure, tons of stress, and it was great because, she was within a short period of time. She was. I said, tell me about what makes you happy when you run. And she just pretty much immediately came up with this run down in the valley, and she's running country road. She's running past a field, and she's got this big brick silo. I guess it's an old grain silo or something like that. And somebody had painted a big flower on the side of this silo, and she said, every time I run past it, it just makes me happy. It's like this is what I love about running. And it was amazing because she, it was literally all of this took place in a few minutes. And she was like, okay, after this massage, I'm going to drive down to the valley. I'm going to go to this road. I'm going to take a picture of this silo, and I'm going to take this picture with me to Boston. And any moment that I feel pressured, stressed, whatever, I'm going to take this picture out and remind myself, this is what makes me happy. This is what gives me joy. And and it was amazing because she went and had a massage with Jackie, and she came up and we said goodbye, and I said, how are you feeling? And she was like, that pressure on my chest, gone, disappeared. Yeah. And she had an amazing run. It wasn't her fastest run because it was a hot Boston, unfortunately, that year. But she had, a fantastic run. She said it was the best marathon of her life. And so but that was, that was all what was happening in terms of her head and the expectations.
Absolutely.
That we touched on earlier, that she built up inside of herself. And
we forget about the journey.
We forget about the journey. Yeah.
Because the journey is, I mean, that's 99% of the whole process, is the training leading up to this event. So, if we're not enjoying the journey, we're going to have probably, admonish our destination, the race at the end. So a great reminder, just, we have to enjoy the runs. And I think that right now people are, they're having a hard time because, trailheads are getting closed, trails are being closed.
Right.
We're not allowed to go, to a lot of our quote unquote happy places.
Right.
But
Right.
we still have to find joy. I mean, a part of the joy is in running, and part of the joy is in the locations we run. But we have to remember there are other places that we can find, we can go. It's hard right now. I know we can't connect with a lot of our friends and go for runs with them, and but I mean, some people are being real creative. They're FaceTiming while they're running, so they may be running in totally different areas, but they're FaceTiming each other, like either before the run, after run, or even during the run.
Right.
I told a friend I would virtually pace him. Like he could FaceTime me while he was doing 100 miles, and I would virtually pace him. But I mean, like
Brilliant.
we have to figure out ways to make these connections and keep joy in it, as well as keep enjoying the journey day after day. Otherwise, we put those stresses and we make it, that end result just seems unattainable because we've blown it out of proportion. And I thought that was a great story to remind us of that. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, my pleasure. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, I'll put the link in there so they can sign up for the newsletter. So thank you for putting out that content. You also do a video as well, a monthly video, correct? You do a shareable video that it's like a happy a content. Isn't that part of the newsletter as well? There's a few things in your newsletter.
Yeah. So in the it's not a video that I do, but it's a video that I pull out of the web somewhere. And so yeah, actually, again, once I kind of set the subject for the newsletter, then I always do a search for videos that kind of link in with that, and sure enough, there was a BBC video back in England about stress. And it was kind of, this is brilliant. This will fit in really nicely, and it's amazing. I mean, some of the videos that I found have just been really inspirational, that's another kind of part of whenever you mentioned intentions a few times, and I think it's important to have intentions, because when we do something, set out with an intention in mind, then Providence moves. And so, with that newsletter, then I had no idea about that BBC video, but I always set out with, I am going to find something that is going to fit in with this, and sometimes it takes me like 2 minutes, to find it. It's other times it might take me 5 minutes, but I always find something. But I love it because there's a magic involved. So you create intentions, and that opens the door for the possibility of magic happening.
That's awesome.
It's just something that I've kind of learned and recognized, and being able to kind of reflect again, has given me the opportunity to realize that if we're setting out with okay, maybe I need to make clear it's a good intention. I think there's obviously a difference. So if we set out with a good intention, then certainly from my experience, then the universe, or whatever you want to call it, will deliver. And it's just like a rule. It's kind of like gravity. You set out with a good intention, you have a good heart. It's something that is going to be good and helpful and productive and supportive and loving for people, and magic will happen. I mean, the part of the beauty of that is, who knows where that leads. When we started our journey from England to Colorado back in 2006, then it's like, I had no real. I knew what trail running was in a way, but it's like I didn't think it was for me necessarily. And, here I am, and we're 8 years into the US Trail Running Conference that I head up. And it's like, I had no idea, whatever, I had lots of dreams, but the reality, going out with that intention, the reality has far exceeded my dreams, my expectations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the conference for a minute here. I've been to the conference, I think four or five times now, maybe more. We've been to California. Usually it's in Estes, as you said. We've had some great guest speakers, and some great themes for each conference. It's something I look forward to immensely. I get to see people I don't, get to see, other than at the conference, and they've become some great friends, like Paul Gigliotti. I've really enjoyed making connections there. Michelle Hartwig. Her and I are going to talk together on the podcast.
Cool.
Yeah, she's wonderful. I love her. Craig Dornley, who many people will know from Western States. Just so many great people that have come there. Billy Mills last year. I've really enjoyed the diversity of guest speakers and, of panelists, the runners, Sage Candidate, Joe Gray, just some great people that have come through there. So you've done a great job of finding this collection of, diverse subjects, diverse race directors and runners. And so I imagine, when you set out, you had kind of this, idea in mind. Has that, gone beyond your expectations? Has it come to fruition? Are there more that you'd like to do? Talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So, definitely beyond expectations. I mean, we when we first started, and want to say a big shout here for the American Trail Running Association, and particularly my friend Nancy Hobbs, Richard Bolt, Peter Maximo, and Tate Pullman. But Nancy in particular, we've been working on this closely together ever since the beginning. And back at the beginning, it was like, let's just put this out there and see what happens. And so the first one was very much a mixture of everything. We had some stuff for race directors, we had some stuff for trail runners, and it was very much a kind of putting our toe into the water. And see how the water felt, and it was great. But we, as often happens, you learn a lot from making mistakes. You kind of learn, you understand that worked well, that didn't work so well, and now we have, and I think it works really well that we split the conference up into segment for race directors specifically and a segment for trail runners specifically. Beyond expectations. And last year, it felt like quite a bold move to come up with a theme about diversity and inclusion and trail running for everyone. But it was one of those situations where that's the intention. We need to make this sport more diverse. It's an amazing sport, and a lot of people enjoy it, but not. There's a lot of people who are enjoying it. They're not necessarily going to races. And so how can we make those people that aren't being welcomed at races more welcome? So it goes back to Brene again, Brene Brown. And it's like, that was the normal. And so we can either choose to continue doing the normal that we've been doing, or we need to start a new normal. And we need to get more women at races. We need to make the world a safer place for women on the trails. We need to welcome African American, Latino, Asian American, Native American. We need to welcome all of these groups that are, massively underrepresented at races, and to make it a welcoming sport for anybody that wants to come. And so we need to make changes. And so it felt like a really bold move to say this is going to be our theme. but Aaron, it's like within a few weeks of putting the theme out there, I had multiple people connect with me and say thank you for thank you for putting this out there, and here is an idea of somebody you can connect with, or here is an idea of an organization you can connect with. And the next thing I know, then it's like, we had Maria from Latinos Run. We had Christy from Denver, Christy Peoples, and from Black Women's Alliance. And we got, next thing I know, we're talking with Run Strong and Fox River Socks about Billy Mills coming. And it's like, And then next thing I know, it's like I connect with a friend down in Denver, and we're talking about starting the conference with a Native American opening ceremony. So it's like all of these things. If we hadn't set out with the intention for this is the theme and this is what we're going to be covering, then none of this magic would have happened. And so this year our theme is about climate action. And sustainability, and so again, it just felt like that was a really important issue that we need to face as well, and is another part of sustainability. I think, I'm looking forward to expanding the content to also include more about covering what is going to be the new normal. What do we not want to go back to? What is it that we want to include in the future of trail running? What is it that we want trail running and trail races to cover? And again, being welcoming, being loving, considerate for the environment, considerate for each other. And how is that going to work? Really, really excited about this year. And this year we're going to Fayetteville in Arkansas. And really thankful for the folks in Fayetteville for enabling us to go there, and really looking forward to working with them and having a great conference in partnership with them.
That's October 21st.
October 21st to the 24th. So 21st to the 23rd is the race director side of things, and then October 24th is the Trail Runner Day. And it's ustrailrunningconference.com is the website. And really looking forward to, and we've got up until COVID happened, we were doing pretty well on registrations. But understandably things have gone a bit quiet for a while now, but right. I'll be looking to, once we get some kind of clarity in terms of a process for reopening things, and then we can make some plans from there in terms of how to progress forwards. But I'm thankful the conference is in October and not earlier. We should be clear and good to go. Although maybe we'll have to make modifications in terms of how the conference operates, and whether social distancing is something we're going to have to consider at that point as well. But we shall see. The great thing is that we're a band of brothers and sisters, and you mentioned Michelle, and she's it's been great to meet her, and I'm really pleased that you're having her on the podcast as well. But we're one thing I've learned about trail running is that we're an incredible community, and so I'm pretty confident that whatever we need to do to be safe and be loving to each other, but still preserve our sport in maybe a different way than it has been, then we'll work together to achieve that. So I'm really looking forward to it. Good. Yeah, that's, like I said, it's been a phenomenal experience, and I encourage anybody that has the opportunity to take advantage of it, because it's there's such a great learning experience on multiple fronts, from race directing to trail running. So and again, I'll put the link in the show notes so people can check that out. Yeah. So we've talked numerous times about
intention, and we've used that term quite a bit. So let's go back and talk a little bit about mindfulness. First, let's define mindfulness, because obviously intention is part of both mindfulness and meditation. So how would you define mindfulness? Excuse me.
Yeah, sure. So, and the way I think of it is just kind of a moment by moment awareness of our thoughts, our feelings, what our body's experiencing, but also what's happening around us. So I don't think it's necessarily all about being kind of inwards and focused on ourselves. That it's also about what's happening around us too. So the that first run back when I was 28, and just kind of heading out the door and rediscovering what running meant. Then I as I said, I remember really clearly about just being so much aware of what was happening around me. And just being mindful of that. And so, I think that's and it's also something, mindfulness is also something that I think is gentle and nurturing. It's not something that needs to or should be forced or aggressive. And it's also about acceptance without judging as well. That kind of covers, at least from my perspective, everything that mindfulness is.
Right on. So how does that relate to meditation? How would you relate that?
Yeah. So I mean so meditation, I think, is typically thought of as a practice where you use a technique to focus the mind on a particular activity, thought, object, person, situation. And so it's really helpful to be mindful as a part of meditation. It kind of, they definitely go hand in hand. I mean, there's definitely a strong marriage there.
Mm. So yeah, you're setting your intention, right? You're that, like we were talking about earlier. What is your intention for meditating or being mindful? You're trying to be aware of something in your life. I guess that's the way of putting it, like you were saying. Like it's a quiet time, right? So
right.
Inflection. You're kind of reflecting and letting your thoughts kind of go. So a lot of times we're closing our eyes to do so because we want to kind of not be as distracted, right? But we have distractions. So how do we deal with those while we're trying to be mindful or meditating?
Okay. So, is this? Do you want to link this in with kind of thoughts that come in with meditating?
Yeah,
is that what
absolutely.
You're thinking? Yeah. Okay. So, I really like, and I think this might have come from Headspace, that I really like the concept of thinking about thoughts as watching clouds. And so I don't know if this is something that people have ever done, but it's like back in England, once I did become more mindful, that it was I used to love just kind of laying back on a hillside or a piece of grass or something and just looking up at the sky and just watching. And so, from a meditation perspective, then I think it was Andy Puddicombe that said that you can think of thoughts as like clouds that come into your vision, but then you can just watch the clouds. You can just choose to watch the clouds. So it's like, okay, oh yeah, there's a cloud, there's a thought. Acknowledge it's there, and then thank you for coming in. And you can now leave. And that's again, I think, a really kind of a mindful situation. And then, but of course, the technique then is, very often with thoughts, whenever a thought arrives, then there's usually some kind of response that's elicited. So So we either get some kind of emotional response or maybe a physical response, depending on what the thought is. And so again, the idea is to kind of be aware that is happening, and okay, that's a thought. I can let this go, and it's like the other thing that I love to do sometimes is depending on what the thoughts are, that sometimes how you're looking at clouds and they barely moving. Yeah,
Yep.
so they're moving really, really slowly.
Right.
So what I like to imagine sometimes is if it's a thought that I would like to get rid of perhaps a little more quickly, is to just imagine a breeze comes along.
It pushes it. There you go.
That gently pushes it out of my vision.
Nice.
And so but again, it's like you don't want a Category 5 hurricane to come along, and that's kind of more aggressive. But just just a nice gentle nudge, and yeah. So that's it's a technique. I mean, it kind of when I first started meditating, I'll be honest, it was like, shit, this is not for me. I'm a bit like you, kind of my monkey brain is going 19 to a dozen, and I, how do I turn this off? And but then it's once you learn, it's kind of like riding a bike. Once you learn the technique, and once you get comfortable and confident and feel good with it, then it's like you can do this whenever you want. It's if you're if you're having a really stressful day, then it can be a really good thing to just and it only needs 5 minutes to take yourself out of whatever that stressful situation is, and then to get to a place where you can meditate, and you can
Nice.
you can clear your thoughts of whatever it was that was monkeying around with you.
The video that you referenced about the clouds in Headspace, that's actually free to everyone right now. They have a little section called Weathering the Storm.
Oh, cool.
And so anybody that goes onto the app right now can actually see what Terry's talking about. There's a little video that talks about how we see these clouds and how we we acknowledge that they're there, but we watch them move on and kind of clear the thought.
Right.
So thank you.
Cool. Hey, good stuff, Andy.
So for those that haven't, this has taken me a while. I went after it, probably 2 years ago to try to be more cognizant, be a little bit more mindful and try to set intention and be more meditative. But as I sat, I couldn't quiet my brain. So how do we start people off? Like let's set up a scenario. What's the best case scenario like that people are going to find success? Perhaps the environment around us or a certain time of day. Some things like that we can kind of set people up for the best success in finding
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Aaron. I think from my own experience and from what you said and other people have said as well, then I think starting off the day is a really good meditation. First thing in the morning is a really good thing to do, and I often do this. So it's like typically I'll wake up before my wife, and so I'll lie in bed and literally just take some time to, as you said, create intentions, focus on something, and not that my mind is usually really monkeyish first thing in the morning anymore, but it does seem to be a really good time for that to happen. And it's kind of like a really good day for me is typically starts off with a meditation, and then it's like the rest of the house. So Jackie will wake up, Coco will wake up, and our dog, and we'll kind of start the day. But then it's almost kind of like the one of the next things I want to do in terms of meditation to some extent is go for a run. And that kind of those two things together are kind of the key elements that really set me up for a good day. So today has been a good day, in the sense that I did meditate this morning, and then I did go for a run, and it's been a beautiful morning. We took Coco with us, and running in Hermit Park opposite where we live here.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's just beautiful area, as you know. I mean, it's it's a really we're very, very fortunate to be able to be.
That Hermit Park, I was just there in October for the trail running conference, and Terry set us up in a Airbnb kind of across the street from this park, Hermit Park, which he's talking about. And there's some wonderful trails, and we were just so fortunate to have a brief snowfall, and the aspens were just letting go of their leaves. And I took a picture. I think I posted it on Facebook or Instagram or one of those, because the sunlight hitting the snow through the trees with the golden leaves on top of the it blew me away. Oh my gosh. It was one of those, pictures that you frame in your mind. We talked about happy places earlier. That's definitely like one of those images I recall, just kind of puts me at ease. The mental imagery that provided. So yes, Terry is so fortunate to have some of the trails around him that he does have. I don't envy some of the weather that you have, but
that's true. We had 18 inches of snow last Thursday. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to your question about how people can help themselves in terms of meditation, then I really think using a guided imagery app made a huge difference to me. I mean, it's like I've been attempting to meditate on and off for years, and then Headspace came along, and I got turned on to that, and it just made so much difference. I think it's a kind of like the difference between running with a coach and without a coach. It's kind of like if you have somebody guiding you, not that you necessarily need to do that forever. But it's a really good way of getting introduced to meditation, and Headspace. Headspace has been my only experience of a guided meditation app, but I know there are others out there that people are really enjoying too. But I think Headspace. I'm not sure if it was the first, but it's certainly kind of a market leader. And
I also like the fact that they now have a female voice. When I first tried, it was just Andy.
Just Andy. Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of times, and when I was trying to meditate, this is previously, when my monkey brain is going, and then I sit down, especially if it's late in the day and try to meditate, I a lot of times fall asleep. And Andy, when he would pop back on, it would just make me, woo! It just scared me, it popped me back awake. And I don't know why, it's just his voice, but the woman's voice, I find her a little bit easier for me. I don't have troubles falling asleep, even if it's later in the day. They do have the sleep meditations that help you fall asleep. But I mean, when you're in more of the intentional meditations, I find myself a little bit more consistent, or I'm not feeling sleepy or drowsy or anything. I feel like I'm more attentive to myself and aware of everything around me a little bit better. But I also find that I need to either do it before my household wakes up, because once my household is up, I have the hardest time kind of sinking my attention to the meditation. My wife came downstairs and was like trying to make breakfast the other day, and I was trying to, she's making breakfast, and like trying to let it go, but I could not, I couldn't stay in the moment.
Yeah.
So, finding a quiet time or a quiet space,
Right.
that's definitely, and I liked how you said, going out for a run is meditative. I find that as well, because it's such a different and interesting way to relieve the brain. Maybe you could talk on that for a second, because when we're running, we can be so distracted by everything around us. But why
Yeah.
don't you talk about that for a second?
Yeah. So, so meditation while running. So obviously we don't want to do this with our eyes closed.
Please no.
Please don't. Or if you do want to do that, then make sure you have a guide with you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. In which case we'll mention Kyle.
Kyle.
And running is right.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So I'm meditation while running. So I do training camps here in Estes Park, and we do a short meditation before we do every run. And so, but part of that is about setting the intention for the run. So we might be working on something specific in terms of the group. So it might be something like cadence. It might be something like breathing. It might be something like forward lean and posture. It might be something like thinking tall. It might be something like breathing. Do I mention that already? So we get everybody as a group together at the trailhead and spend a short period of time meditating specifically about the intention for the run. The other thing that we do is we focus on something that we're grateful for in this moment. Yeah. And then the last thing we do is we touch the earth. So we literally get down on our hands and knees and put our hands, touch the earth. And then we give thanks for the opportunity to run on this beautiful trail, that somebody has created this trail for us. If it was man-made, then it might have been an old hunting trail at one point, and so we can also give thanks for those people that used to hunt and the animals that were there, and so on. Do you see it? Yeah.
Yep.
And so we do that, and then we go out and run. And so then on the run, then it's not necessarily that your your entire focus is spent on cadence. So what we encourage people to do is to is to spend maybe some time focusing on cadence, especially if it's a technical trail. Then something like cadence. Then on the more technical piece, we'd say, okay, let's just run through this bit, and then when it's maybe smoother, less technical, then it's like, okay, now let's check in on cadence, or let's check in on breathing, or let's check in on posture. And so it's not kind of quite like a meditation when we're not running, and kind of relaxing on our living room floor. So it's a different kind of experience, but it's also an opportunity again, because inevitably, even when we're on a run, we're still getting distractions. We're still getting maybe thoughts coming in that we don't necessarily want to focus on at that time. So we can also use it as an opportunity to again think of how we can keep our focus on, be mindful in the moment in terms of what we want to what's our intention for this particular run, for this particular time. And so it's a good opportunity to learn how to manage that as well.
Well, and let's talk about the breath. You mentioned the breath a few times there. Even when we're just sitting, a lot of times headspace goes into talking about the breath and focusing on the breath. Now it's not actually the action of breathing, but the rhythm of the breath that you're paying attention to. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And
go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, one of the things that I love to do in terms of breathing, and this kind of ties into to imagination. and the imagination, our imagination is just incredibly powerful. I mean, who'd have thought that, if you thought like 10 years ago that you and I would be having, a podcast and you're
right.
you're in
especially over
another,
video, right?
yeah, especially over video, yeah.
Yeah.
You're in another state and I'm in Colorado, and it's like, whoa, this is amazing. But the beauty of it is that somebody imagined it before it happened. Yeah. And so if anything that we've created as a species, that somebody imagined it first. And so our imagination is just incredibly powerful. And so what I love doing, I mean, this is a personal thing for me in terms of breathing, that what I love doing in terms of the rhythm is just to focus on my breathing. And then I just imagine the breath flowing into my lungs, and then that's the first one, and then the second one is it gets deeper. I'd imagine the breath getting deeper into my lungs, yeah, and then it gets right down to the cells where actually the oxygen transfer is happening, and so over a sequence of breaths, then I can start off with just getting breath into my lungs, and then finish up with oxygenated blood is getting down to my toes and my hands, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's kind of like a sequence,
right,
kind of like a sequence, and so there's a because at the same time this rhythm is happening, then it just gets it's just a kind of beautiful rhythmic experience. It's kind of like dancing inside your body, but without moving.
right. Right. I have the imagery of those old videos we used to watch in health class of you could see the arrows pointing down the nasal passage. That's what comes into my mind sometimes when I'm meditating. Is I've got this horrible film, the old projectors with the reels, So I see that in my head sometimes of the breathing. So that then I have to clear my head. I'm like, I don't want to vision that. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about health class. No, that's not a good mental imagery for for meditation. But health class, nightmares.
Yes,
but what is
things have moved on from there.
Oh, thank God. Thank God they've evolved. So what does breathing do? What what benefit are we getting from concentrating on the breath? What is it doing for our mind and body?
Yeah, so I think for me, one of the important things is that because breathing is automatic, that it helps to bring me back to being thankful. So it's like every single breath keeps us alive, and so it's like without it, it's like I can hold my breath for a little bit of time, but not for that long. And so yeah, for it in terms of being mindful, then it just kind of really connects me with this world, that my mum and dad, God bless them, talking about them earlier, that it's like they created me, and that in itself is a miracle.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And here I am, 66 years later, and I'm still a miracle. You know what I mean? It's like, and so I think the breathing part is just really important. But but I guess in terms of breathing, then one of the best ways one of the best mechanisms we have for stress relief is just to breathe, and just to take some really big, deep belly breaths, and then and let it go. And it's just such a great stress relief for us. It also reduces blood pressure, heart rate, It just calms down. The production of stress hormones is reduced. When we practice deep breathing, so it's like on a whole number of levels, it's just really good medicine, really good juju. And I mean, there's a really good reason why a lot of meditation involves focusing on the breath. So I think just about covers it. Yeah.
So, like, any other times you recommend using mindful breathing? Obviously you talked about being stressed and such, but is there any other times you can think of that it'd be a good thing to take a mindful breath?
Yeah. So I often find myself doing it in a situation where maybe I'm working with a situation where there's some negative energy coming the other way, and of course, what can often happen is if we have a response coming at us, then our kind of natural response sometimes is just to kick back. Yeah, so we're hit back in some way. And so what I found is that if I pause, take a breath before I respond, then it actually helps me to be more mindful in terms of how I respond. Yeah. And of course, going back to Brene again, and how things were before. I mean, that list of things that were normal, are all things that we've been surrounded by constantly.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I bet Brene before she thought about that probably took a deep breath.
Yeah, absolutely. I do it before I sit down on my computer. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Just kind of reset, if you will.
Reset.
Before I start typing an email, especially if it's in response to something, I want to make sure that I give myself a moment, that I don't let emotion kind of gunk up what I'm about to do,
Right.
And so,
yeah, because otherwise we stand the risk of monkeying up our response,
That's right.
And of course, we're responding to somebody else's response, and if our response is mirroring their response, then all we're going to get back is more of the same. So yeah, it's that's a great technique. I love that.
Thank you. You kind of gave us a simple, just inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth.
Right.
There's a lot of techniques out there for different mindful breath. Can you run us through just a simple exercise, maybe something we could do in the morning, just to kind of set ourselves up, relax ourselves a little bit before we get going?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is you mentioned Active Acuity and the app. So this technique is something I use within Active Acuity, within the guided imagery sessions that we have there, and also in the new program as well, Runner's Mindset. But this is. Do you actually want me to run through the process? So
sure, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Physically demonstrate. Okay, so first thing is I really recommend taking 3 big deep belly breaths. Yeah, so it really fill up your lungs, get the belly working, and so we'll take 1. So, and then hold it for a couple of seconds and exhale, and we'll do 2 more, and in. And hold and exhale. And we'll do 1 more. And in. And hold and exhale. That's a good.
Yeah. you could feel everything just kind of loosen. That's what I love about it. Is, You can feel that, like all your muscles just kind of
They do, don't they? They do.
do.
And so in the guided imagery session, then we move into to ordinary breathing, but then we start to focus on the breathing and do some breath counts and that kind of thing. And yeah, it's just so relaxing. It's just a great way to to get yourself ready, get yourself prepared, get yourself set up for pretty much anything.
Yeah. How often should we practice both meditation, breathing, all that? Is there something you recommend?
Well, I think in terms of being mindful and meditating, then it's just I think of it just like physical exercise. So I do some physical exercise. I don't necessarily run every day. Right now, I'm probably only running 4 days a week, but I'm doing some kind of exercise every day, whether it's playing with Coco or running after Jackie or whatever. And I think meditation certainly the most gains I've had in terms of meditation is when I've been consistent, just like physical activity, just like training. And so, so I mean, a daily meditation, even if it's only, 10 minutes every day, I think is a great way to, and again, going back to, maybe start of the day, is a great way to set you up. So I think definitely consistency in terms of breathing. Then there's multiple times that I do this during a day, and just focus on my breathing and do some of those deep breathing exercises, and then sometimes I'll also, and Jackie comes out sometimes, and she'll say, "You asleep again?" It's like, haven't you got anything to do? It's like I'm not asleep. I just got my eyes closed because I'm just focusing on my breathing right now. It's like I'm just having a breath meditation, isn't it?
Oh, that's good.
But it's funny. I was going to mention this when you mentioned it, but I just thought of it again now that when you were talking about trying to meditate while your wife was making breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it would be okay if she was making breakfast without the smells.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. This one smells start.
Yeah.
You're toast. You're toast.
I know. Yeah. You could be aware of the smells, but I seem to become too aware.
Yeah. And that's that. I don't know about you, but it's one of the hardest physical responses I find to turn off. Is if you're hungry and you smell food, even if it's just a piece of toast, even that has an aroma, and as soon as the aroma lands in your body, then it's like your stomach will kick in, and it's like, well, okay, that's it.
Yep. Absolutely. So I did your last video series that you put on, and you talked in there about journaling.
Yes.
Let's talk about journaling a little bit. How can that help us in our mindfulness journey?
Yeah. So I was thinking about maybe journaling specifically from a running perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of runners, keep journals or logs in terms of their running training. And something that, in terms of being mindful, something that I think really helps is to have a record not only of how far you've gone, what distance you covered, what time, and so on, but also is to, and I think we touched on this earlier, maybe that to also record how you are feeling emotionally. So it's like if you have 2 weeks of your log, and every run says, "I'm feeling tired."
Right.
Yeah. And there's a message there.
Yeah.
If a sequence of runs that you normally do and normally is like takes you to a happy place, and it's not taking you to a happy place, then that's an opportunity with a journal where you keep the emotional part and how you're feeling, then that's an opportunity to be more mindful about what it is that you're doing, because we're only productive when we are happy and joyful and as much as we can in the moment. So if we're not being in that place, then we're probably not being productive with our training. In which case, why are we doing what we're doing? Because otherwise, we're just following it for the sake of following it. And so I think that's a really important piece of for us as runners, to keep a journal of how we're actually feeling. And the emotions, so it's like, with for me this morning, then it was with Coco and Jackie. Then it's like, Coco was we were on the dirt road that goes through Hermit Park.
Yep.
So we had to keep Coco on the lead, and so it was Jackie's turn. She volunteered to do the lead, and but of course Coco, inevitably, he's a dog, he stops and sniffs on a regular basis, and so it was great, because rather than see it as a for me, it was like rather than see it as a moment where this is interrupting my run, then it's like I found myself, I was starting to think about, I wonder what he's smelling.
Yeah.
And then my imagination started. So it's like every time he stopped, it was then an opportunity to think about, that was a coyote. Yeah. And it's like then it was like, oh, cool, yeah, bears are probably up now. So it's like, maybe that's a bear pee there or something. Do you know what I mean? So it becomes a kind of really joyful, I almost want to say like childlike experience, So it's like that kind of wonder of, what's going on in our world, how does this work? How does that smell? What does that taste like? What does it feel like to run naked through the rain?
Yeah. You have to remember dogs, like I was talking with one of my runners the other day about, she was running with their dog and she's like, I don't know what was wrong with him today. I said, well, you have to remember dogs don't always have good days either. So I mean, we have to be mindful of our companions. They may not want to, you got to listen to them. If they're barking at you a ton or stopping a bunch, it may not be the day that they want to run. So, I mean, as much as you want them with you, sometimes they're just not ready to go. But let's talk about your new video series that's coming out. You called it The Runner's Mindset, correct? Is that right?
Yeah. It's called Runner's Mindset. So it actually, I was developed this particular program last year, and I did like a soft launch with Vacation Races. So we had 250 runners go through this program last year, and I called it Race Mindset. And so the idea is that it helps runners get prepared for a race or an event they have coming up.
Okay.
And it actually starts 25 days before race date. So it kind of starts before your taper. But then it carries through and finishes off literally just a few days before race day, and it's the same kind of concept as the series that you did. So the one you did was probably Kickstart My Running, I think in 21 days. Yeah. So it's the same kind of concept. It's effectively 21 days of guided imagery sessions. And each session has a specific subject, and the idea is to really get people connected with being mindful, but looking at things from a different perspective. So the first one I do is imagination. The second one is focus. The third one is about thoughts become things, and so on. And so, having did a soft launch last year, I was going to do a hard launch this year, but then we got no races. So it's like, damn it. So I'm thinking, okay, so I've got this concept. So I've done a pivot, and so I created a program called Runner's Mindset. So it works on the same kind of basis, but instead, kind of what the focus is, instead of a race, then what I'm encouraging runners to do is to kind of take a different perspective on what's happening right now. So what you mentioned earlier about, okay, I can't run with my training group anymore. Maybe I can't go to the trailhead that I really love because it's closed right now. Right. So there's all these restrictions, but then of course, what you also mentioned is there's also lots more possibilities as well. So how encouraging runners to maybe take a different perspective on themselves and the situation, but also to a bit like the meditation piece. So it's like the whole kind of reason for the program is that I'm hopeful that we can help guide people, guide runners to maybe focus on the more intrinsic rewards of running. So rather than be focused on a race and the medal and the T-shirt and
yep.
and the your name on the results or whatever the extrinsic reward is, to be more focused on the intrinsic things about running, and then what makes them happy, what gives them joy, what helps them build confidence. What takes them to a place where they have an out of body experience, or something like this, and so that's what the program is all about. And registration actually opens on Thursday this week, and
which is April 23rd.
Yeah. Which just happens to be St. George's Day back in England, but that will probably be nothing to you. And but he was famous for slaying a dragon, but that's a whole nother story. And the program itself will actually start May the 1st. Okay. But if you don't register before May the 1st, then you register May the 5th, and then the program will start May the 6th for you. So on.
Gotcha.
So everybody, whenever they register, gets the full 21 days. There's also an introductory video, and then a survey at the end of it.
All right. Well, we'll try to get this podcast out on Thursday, so that will be in time with your opening day for registration. So
that would be good. That would be good timing, but no pressure. No pressure. Don't want you to stress about it.
Let me take a deep breath.
Yeah. Yes. And the cost is $15 per runner. So hopefully it's affordable for folks, and that's certainly the feedback we got on the program from last year. It's there's a video each day, and the video runs through a specific mindset activity, which of course is all focused on positive thinking, positive imagery, and so those 21 days, kind of build on themselves, and we've had some really good feedback from folks that have been through the program for race mindset, and so we're very excited about runners mindset, and hope many folks register, and then we'd also love to hear from folks that do, how we could potentially improve the program. One other thing that I've done since the program that you went through, Aaron, is part of the program is a downloadable workbook that you can print off. And so we thought that's a really useful kind of tool to help people after they've done each session to make some notes. And so we give some specific tips and pointers. And then that journal then creates something which the runners can refer back to, kind of like the picture of the silo that I mentioned with our running friend earlier. It's good to have a kind of memory that you can go back to, and so you can go back to, okay, when did I last feel happy?
That's on your website. That's also available on your website.
Well, the workbook comes with the program. Actually, I guess I could put it on the website as well. But yeah, that would be that'd probably be a good idea.
And registration is available through your website as well?
Registration is available through the website, and there's registration links on the webpage, which I can share with you, but and you can share with your listeners too. But yeah, the link on the webpage isn't going to be active until April 23rd. So,
okay, all right. And then give us your website one more time.
Okay, so the website is activeacuity.com, and it's activacuity.com. And then on the menu, there's mindset programs, and then under mindset programs is runner's mindset.
Perfect.
And so that's where they can find details.
Excellent. And if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
So the best way to get hold of me, email is Terry, Terry, at active@altitude.com. So that's all spelt out. So ACTIVEAT altitude.com. And
how about you're on socials?
On socials, yes. So Facebook, we have an active@altitude.com Facebook page, but my personal page is just Terry Chiplin, and I don't think there's too many of those on Facebook, so it's pretty easy.
Fantastic, Terry. I really sincerely, thank you for everything today, for your sharing, and for your knowledge, and for your friendship, and all the time you shared with us. Sincerely, thank you, my friend.
Aaron, thank you so much too. It's been a pleasure to spend this time with you. I'm so glad that I get to see your face as well. It's
absolutely yes.
I know the podcast they won't get to see your face, but yeah. I'm honored to do that, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you in October and
yes.
Working with you. And yeah, let's get out there and change this world, Aaron.
Absolutely. Thank you, my friend.
Okay, thank you. Take care, Aaron.
Well, what a great program. Terry, again, thank you, my friend, for everything, for your open and honest approach to life, for being so vulnerable and allowing us in. Thank you for your time. We went a lot longer than we had anticipated, and I really enjoyed the conversation. Really meant a lot. I learned a lot. I'm on my own journey. I hope you'll start your own journey too. Find intention, find purpose, kind of frame yourself, take a moment before you get into an action, and just take a breath, release some stress, put yourself in the right mindset to tackle whatever task you have at hand. Terry's got a lot going on. I'm going to post all the stuff in the show notes, from the trail running conference to the new runner's mindset program, his new app, his running camps, and then where you can sign up for his newsletter. Along with that, you can contact Terry. He's fantastic. I hope you guys will get involved and reach out to Terry and thank him for his time here on the program. I want to also say thank you for listening, for giving me the opportunity to continue this platform and being a part of your lives, of your run, wherever you're listening to this. Thank you for that. I hope perhaps you'll rate, review, and subscribe, so others can hear this. Share it on your platforms. If you liked it, please let me know. If you didn't, let me know as well. I want to know what I can do better. I'm doing this to help myself, to help you. I want to be a better communicator and learn from others and share those experiences with everybody. So thank you for letting me share my journey. This is year 30 for me of running, and I've learned a lot along the way, and I'm still learning, and that's what counts. We're here to learn and be better people. So I hope we grow together. You can follow me on Facebook. Personal page is Aaron Saft. I also have the MR Running Pains Facebook page, and Instagram. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Aaron Saft. Then you can subscribe to my newsletter on my Facebook page, on my website, mrrunningpains.com. And once again, guys, thank you for listening. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you next week.